أصحاب السمو وأصحاب المعالي. It is a great honor for me to be here with you all today, and I deeply thank once again His Majesty King Hamad for this historic opportunity that the Gulf Cooperation Council is offering to Italy. Italy is a nation with an ancient heart, with a forward-looking attitude, capable of captivating the world with its identity and trying to play a leading role on the European and international stage. A nation bearing in its own DNA features such as dialogue, ability to confront with everyone, and respect for its interlocutor. This is our tradition. It is what has always characterized us. It is the asset that has allowed the Italian civilization to get contaminated and enriched, yet never losing itself. It is a story lost in the midst of time. The Limes Arabicus, the border between the Roman Empire and the Arabian Peninsula, was not a rigid separation, but a space for transit, communication, and trade, crossed by that spice route that united ancient Rome and India after crossing the Mediterranean. And Italy could never conceive of itself without the Mediterranean, the very heart of the world's political, cultural, and commercial exchanges for millennia, and still today the shortest route of communication between the planet's two great maritime spaces, the Atlantic Ocean and the Indo-Pacific. A sea that occupies only 1% of the world's water, yet it is crossed by 20% of the world maritime traffic, thanks to the Suez Canal connection. This is how geography and history have shaped our relationship and are destined to chart our common future, because I'm convinced that considering both the Mediterranean and the Gulf as regional seas, alien to the great challenges, is reductive. I see them instead as spaces that project their action far beyond their physical and natural boundaries. Spaces that together can be protagonists of major intercontinental interconnections. This vision spurs us to behave as natural partners. And I am convinced we can be an engine of cooperation, and by uniting the West and the East, Europe and Asia, we can contribute to helping overcome divisions. If I look at the map, I see that the Mediterranean and the Gulf guard some of the most important and strategic passages at a global level: the Hormuz Strait, Bab el-Mandeb, the Suez Canal, and Gibraltar, a pathway linking Asia, the Middle East, Africa, Europe, and the United States. And we all know that the importance of our shared space is only destined to increase, and that we need a more structured dialogue leading to enhanced cooperation if we want all of us to take full advantage of the opportunities offered by our geopolitical centrality. For this reason, if you like the idea, I would like to work with you on a GCC-Med summit that obviously I am ready to host in Italy, a nation historically and geographically at the core of these spaces, to create this new and ambitious format of dialogue between Gulf and Mediterranean nations. A format that does not mean to compete with other international initiatives or fora, and does not work as an alternative to them, but one that knows how to work on complementarities, synergies, and mutual strengths. Our goal must be building a common operational platform focusing on the challenges in which we can make a difference together. And the first of these challenges lies in developing economic interconnections, increasingly decisive in the globalized and highly innovative economic landscape we are experiencing. I'm thinking of the India-Middle East corridor, the infrastructure and economic project to connect major port cities in India, the Middle East, and Europe, enabling interconnection with the United States. This initiative would allow our economies and businesses to unleash enormous potential. And in it, Italy intends to play a leading role, for example, counting on a crucial hub such as Trieste, the northernmost port in the Mediterranean and the historic maritime gate to the Balkans and the rest of Central and Eastern Europe. Equally strategic is the digital connection domain. At a time when data are increasingly becoming the new fuel of our societies, one of the main projects involving us is the construction of the Blue Raman cable, the maritime backbone to connect Europe to India through Italy, the Mediterranean, and the Arabian Peninsula. An infrastructure we deem essential for meeting the growing demand for connectivity, also linked to AI overwhelming development. But we also aim to lay the foundations of a new energy diplomacy, to multiply the opportunities for cooperation between Europe, Africa, Italy, and the Gulf, and offer decisive opportunities for the transition's success. Technological neutrality is the principle that must shape our thinking, to build a mix of all the technologies available and those addressed by research and innovation. On this matter, my idea is that the approach has to be more pragmatic and less ideological. Italy can and will be for the Gulf the gateway to Europe, giving even stronger momentum to economic cooperation that is now worth $35 billion a year, but does not express the true potential of our relation. There is great scope for development, drawing on a typical feature of our way of conceiving partnership with other nations. The Italian system does not just export off-the-shelf products, but provides its partners and their growth and development plans with financial instruments, know-how, industrial skills, and technological capabilities in the most advanced sector. Because the Italian system understands the concept of cooperation as per its original meaning. The word cooperation, let's go to the source, originates from the Latin cooperare, which literally means to work with. True cooperation does not involve an active and a passive subject, one who buys and one who sells, for example. It always implies something built together, something new that will arise from such joint work. Through this enhanced cooperation that I want to build, Italy, Europe, the Gulf nations, but also North Africa and the Middle East can therefore work together for giving birth to something new in order to build an increasingly secure, stable, and prosperous geopolitical space. This is even more important in the Gulf area, which guards sea routes that are crucial and exposed to risks and tensions originating from Middle East instability. Personally, I believe 3 priority paths must be traveled to achieve stability in your region and ours. The first path goes through the Middle East, especially now that the plan presented by President Trump offers a real possibility to build a stable and lasting framework of peace and security. We know well how fragile the truce is and how much work will be taken to turn this opportunity into a long-term reality. But we are all committed to supporting and nurturing the unity of purpose proved by the international community in Sharm el-Sheikh, attaining an uncommon level of sharing and participation. Italy is doing its own part, both by training the Palestinian security forces and providing the aid package for the reconstruction conference. Yet I remain convinced that to ensure the Middle East security and stability it deserves, we must work to attain the two-state structural solution. And we all know this requires Israel's recognition of the Palestinians' right to have their own state and the definitive recognition of the State of Israel's right to existence and security. I'm fully aware this is not an easy path, yet when I look at the leaders around this table, I'm convinced we all want the same thing: a future of peace, a future of prosperity, a future of stability, being able to focus on exchange rather than on humanitarian aid, on strategy rather than emergency, on stability rather than precariousness. We all know this peace proposal is an opportunity that may not be replicated, and this is why Italy intends to support it firmly. The second path goes through Iran. Iran has repeatedly stated it does not intend to get nuclear weapon, and if it is that true, and I want to believe it is, reaching a demanding and credible agreement as soon as possible is essential, with full involvement of the International Atomic Energy Agency to reassure the international community of the exclusively peaceful nature of Iran's nuclear program. As in the past, when we hosted 2 negotiating rounds between Iran and the United States, Italy is ready to offer any useful contribution to restarting a diplomatic process and working with everyone, Iran, the United States, the nations present here, to achieve this shared goal. The third path goes through countering terrorism and extremism. In this, we must keep working with all our available tools, financial, military, judicial. We have achieved remarkable results together, but we are all aware that we can and must do much more. Relations between Europe and the Gulf nations are experiencing a very positive phase, relying on fruitful political dialogue and robust trade relations. This allows us to speak among us also about the growing tensions in Europe linked to instances of Islamic radicalism. In several European contexts, we are increasingly witnessing the phenomenon of Islamic separatism. That is the failure by some Islamic communities to recognize the laws and customs of European nations. This triggers tensions that risk undermining social cohesion and fueling hostility towards Muslim minorities across Europe. And working together is essential for building shared paths to avert fundamentalist proselytism in Europe, enhance fruitful forms of dialogue and discussion between different identities, and concretely support integration paths. But a starting assumption must be the same for all of us. When you choose to live in a foreign nation, you must accept its law, culture, and tradition. For cohabitation is possible. And I reiterate it here, in a nation that has been pioneer of interfaith dialogue and respect for others, thanks to King Hamad. I wish to recall and share with you an enlightened passage from the Kingdoms of Bahrain's declaration. We commit to working for a world where people of sincere belief join together to reject that which divides us and concentrate instead on celebrating and expanding on what which unites us. And obviously, dialogue must not aim at homologation or at cancelling differences. Far from it. Dialogue must instead help get to know each other, to fully respect each other. Again, the Italian for respect derives from the Latin respicere, which means to look in depth. Respect assumes understanding history, culture, roots, and its precondition lies in the awareness and pride of own identity, because only strong identities do not fear confrontation. This is the precondition for jointly defending inevitable assumption of any safe and prosperous society, such as religious freedom and people's rights. Your Majesties, Royal Highnesses, dear friends, in working on this meeting, I discovered one of the most fascinating symbols of this land, the Shajaratu el Hayatun, the tree of life, the magnificent acacia tree that has lived and thrived in the Bahraini desert for 100 years. It is a symbol of the impossible that becomes possible, like cooperation between us, like friendship between us, which some would like to make impossible, but which instead can richly flourish for a long time ahead. This is my personal wish, and this is also the reason why I'm so proud to be here. Shukran. Thank you very much.
أشكر دولة رئيسة الوزراء الإيطالية على